The BMW's red bow gleamed under my son's Christmas lights like a taunt. I watched from the kitchen window as Marcus handed Linda the keys to her brand new $60,000 gift, his face beaming with pride. "Merry Christmas, Mom Linda," he called out, using that ridiculous nickname that made my teeth clench. My daughter-in-law Ashley squealed and clapped like they'd just cured cancer instead of buying a luxury car for a woman who'd been in our family exactly 8 months. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Me? Well, let me show you what my loving son got his actual mother. I held up the pink plastic piggy bank, shaking it so the 3 lonely dollar bills inside rustled like dead leaves. $3. After 35 years of raising him, after every sacrifice I'd made, every penny I'd spent on his college education, his wedding, his down payment. $3. "It's symbolic, Mom," Marcus had explained with that patronizing tone he'd perfected since marrying Ashley. "You're always saving money, so we thought this would be perfect." Perfect. That's exactly what I'd called it when I smiled sweetly and thanked him for such a thoughtful gift. Because that's what mothers do, isn't it? We smile and pretend our hearts aren't breaking while our children hand us scraps and call it love. I watched Ashley link arms with Linda, both of them admiring the leather interior like schoolgirls. Linda had swooped into our family after my dear husband Tom passed 2 years ago, appearing at every family gathering with her perfectly styled silver hair and designer clothes. Somehow she'd managed to become Mom Linda, while I, the woman who actually birthed Marcus, had been demoted to just Mom, and apparently only worth $3. The December wind rattled my kitchen window as I set the piggy bank on the counter next to the Christmas cards I'd never sent. Cards that would have cost more than my entire gift. The irony wasn't lost on me, though I doubt Marcus would appreciate it even if I explained it to him. I'd spent the morning cooking their Christmas dinner, of course, standing in my kitchen for 6 hours preparing honey-glazed ham, homemade rolls, green bean casserole from scratch, and that ridiculous trifle Ashley insisted on, even though no one but her actually liked it. My feet ached, my back screamed, and my hands were raw from washing dishes. But hey, at least I got $3 out of the deal. The front door opened and I heard Ashley's voice carrying through the house. "Dot, we're heading out to show Mom Linda her new car around town. Not, would you like to come, or want to join us?" Just an announcement that they were leaving, taking their precious Mom Linda on a victory lap while the woman who'd provided their Christmas feast stood alone in her kitchen holding a children's toy. I heard Marcus call out, "Thanks for dinner, Mom. We'll see you next week." Next week, when they needed something, no doubt. My jaw tightened as I listened to their car doors slam, one after another, followed by the distinctive purr of a $60,000 engine pulling out of my driveway. The house fell silent, except for the hum of the dishwasher and the ticking of the grandfather clock Tom had loved. I looked around my empty kitchen, at the mountain of dishes I'd volunteered to clean up, at the leftover food that would feed me for a week because God knows they wouldn't take any home. That's when I noticed Linda's purse sitting on my counter, forgotten in her excitement over her shiny new toy. A black leather Kate Spade bag that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. She'd left it right next to my $3 piggy bank, and somehow that felt like the universe delivering a message. I picked up the purse, feeling its expensive weight in my hands. Inside I could see her wallet, thick with credit cards and cash, her phone in a rhinestone case, and a prescription bottle. How careless of her to leave behind something so important. How very careless indeed. A slow smile spread across my face as I carried Linda's purse to my bedroom, where I could examine its contents properly. After all, I was just being helpful, making sure nothing was missing before I returned it. That's what good mothers do. Linda's wallet was a treasure trove of information, and I do mean treasure. As I carefully inventoried the contents on my bedroom dresser, I couldn't help but marvel at how much someone could learn about a person from their purse. Cash, nearly $400. Credit cards from every major bank, plus store cards for Nordstrom, Saks, and Tiffany. But it was the folded papers tucked behind her driver's license that made my eyebrows shoot up. Bank statements. 3 of them, printed just last week. Our dear Linda wasn't just well off, she was loaded. The kind of loaded that makes a $60,000 BMW look like pocket change. Her checking account balance alone had more zeros than I'd seen since Tom's life insurance payout. And here, I'd thought she was just another widow trying to find companionship in her golden years. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Her phone buzzed constantly with text messages, and I couldn't help but notice the notifications lighting up the screen. Deposit confirmed, $15,000 from something called Sunset Investments. Meeting confirmed for Thursday. Bring the Williams file. Williams. That would be us. I sat in Tom's old recliner, the one Marcus had tried to convince me to throw away because it didn't match Ashley's decorating vision. Funny how everything that mattered to me didn't match their vision. The prescription bottle caught my attention next. Anxiety medication prescribed just 2 months ago, right around the time she'd started getting more involved in our family finances. You see, Linda had been so helpful lately, offering to drive me to doctor appointments, volunteering to review my insurance policies, asking detailed questions about Tom's pension. Just want to make sure you're taken care of, honey, she'd say with that sweet smile. But now I was wondering exactly who was being taken care of. The house phone rang, jarring me from my investigation. Mrs. Williams? This is Officer Patterson with the state police. I'm calling about a report we received regarding a missing person. A Linda Chen? My heart skipped, but my voice stayed steady. Linda Chen? I'm sorry, officer, but I'm not familiar with that name. Our records show she was last seen at your address earlier today. Her son filed the report when she didn't return home and wasn't answering her phone. Her son. Interesting that she'd never mentioned having children. In all her stories about being a lonely widow, somehow she'd forgotten to mention family members who might file missing person reports. Well, we did have Christmas dinner today, I said carefully. But I believe she left with my son and daughter-in-law. They were going for a drive in her new car. New car? A BMW. Christmas gift from my son. I let that sink in. Perhaps you should contact them. Marcus Williams and Ashley Williams. After I hung up, I looked at Linda's phone again. 23 missed calls from someone named Brian Chen, and text messages getting increasingly frantic. Mom, where are you? The police are looking for you. Please call me back. So Linda had a son who cared enough to call the police when she went missing. Unlike my son, who'd probably wait a week before wondering where I was. The irony was delicious, really. Here I was holding the belongings of a woman whose child actually worried about her well-being. I opened her photo gallery, telling myself I was still just being thorough. Most recent photos showed Linda at various family gatherings. Our family gatherings. Linda at Marcus and Ashley's anniversary dinner. Linda at their Labor Day barbecue. Linda at Ashley's birthday party. In every single photo, she was positioned between Marcus and Ashley, like she belonged there more than I did. But it was the older photos that made my blood run cold. Pictures of documents, screenshots of bank statements, photos of the inside of my house, my bedroom, my home office, areas where a guest had no business being. The timestamps showed she'd been documenting things for months, long before her relationship with our family had become so cozy. My hands were shaking now as I scrolled further back. There it was, a photo of Tom's death certificate, another of our marriage license, screenshots of property records showing the value of our house, and a photo that made my stomach drop, my social security card, which I kept in my jewelry box upstairs. Linda Chen wasn't just a lonely widow looking for family. She was conducting surveillance. The question was why, and more importantly, what was she planning to do with all this information? The grandfather clock chimed 7 times, and I realized they'd been gone for over 2 hours. A tour of the neighborhood shouldn't take that long, even with stops to show off a new car. My phone sat silent on the nightstand, no calls or texts from Marcus letting me know where they were or when they might return Linda's purse. I carefully repacked everything exactly as I'd found it, but not before taking photos of her bank statements and the more interesting documents with my own phone. If Linda was playing games, then she'd just taught me the rules. The BMW's engine announced their return, and I heard Ashley's laughter floating through the winter air. I positioned myself in the kitchen, Linda's purse in hand, ready to play the concerned mother who'd discovered their oversight. But as I watched Linda through the window, studying her face as she walked toward my door, I noticed something I'd missed before. The way she moved, the way she surveyed my property, the calculating look in her eyes as she approached. This wasn't a woman who'd carelessly forgotten her purse. This was a woman who'd left it behind on purpose. "Oh my goodness, Dot. Thank you so much for keeping my purse safe," Linda gushed as I handed it over, her performance Oscar-worthy. "I can't believe I forgot it. I must be getting old." She laughed that tinkling laugh that had charmed Marcus from day one, but now it sounded like nails on a chalkboard. "No problem at all," I replied, watching her carefully check the contents. Her fingers moved quickly through the wallet, and I caught the almost imperceptible relief that flashed across her face when she confirmed everything was still there. "I hope you enjoyed showing off your beautiful gift." "Oh, we did. Marcus is such a thoughtful boy. You raised him well." The way she emphasized boy when talking about my 35-year-old son made my skin crawl. Ashley and I stopped by my house so I could show the car to my neighbors. They're all so jealous. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Marcus appeared behind her, already reaching for his coat. "Well, Mom, we should get going. Work tomorrow, you know how it is." 3 hours ago, he'd been beaming about his generous gift to Linda. Now he was treating our family Christmas like an obligation to check off his list. "Actually, Marcus, before you go," I said, my voice sweet as pie, "I got a call from the state police. Something about Linda being reported missing." The color drained from Linda's face. "Missing? But that's ridiculous. I'm obviously not missing." "That's what I told Officer Patterson. Apparently your son filed a report?" I watched Linda's composure crack for just a moment. "He must be worried sick about you." "My son?" Linda's voice pitched higher. "Oh, well, yes. Brian can be overprotective, ever since his father died." She waved her hand dismissively. "I should call him and explain." "You have a son?" Ashley looked genuinely surprised. "Linda, you never mentioned having children." The silence stretched uncomfortably. Linda's eyes darted between all of us, clearly calculating her next move. "Well, we're not very close. He lives in Seattle. Different lives, you know how it is." But I knew better now. Those text messages had been desperate, loving, concerned. That wasn't the communication pattern of a distant relationship. Linda had been lying to us about being alone in the world, just like she'd been lying about so many other things. "How wonderful that you have family," I said, still smiling. "And they care enough to worry when you don't come home." "That's precious." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Mom, we really need to get going." "Early morning tomorrow?" "Of course, sweetheart. Drive safely. Linda, I do hope your son stops worrying once you call him back." I watched through the window as they walked to their cars. Linda moved quickly, already dialing her phone before she reached the BMW. Marcus and Ashley followed more slowly, and I could see them talking, probably about Linda's mysterious family revelation. As soon as their taillights disappeared, I went to my computer. Brian Chen, Seattle. It took me exactly 15 minutes to find him on social media, and what I discovered made everything click into place. Brian Chen wasn't just Linda's son. He was a successful attorney specializing in elder law and estate planning. His Facebook page was full of photos with his mother, recent photos showing a close, loving relationship, photos at family dinners, birthday celebrations, holidays. This wasn't a distant, estranged son. This was a devoted child who spoke to his mother regularly and spent holidays with her. So why was Linda pretending to be alone? Why was she inserting herself into our family when she clearly had one of her own? I kept digging. Linda's social media presence was minimal, but Brian's was open, and Mother's appeared frequently in his posts. Mom's visiting again next month, from October. Family dinner with Mom and the kids, from September. Mom's advice about the Peterson case saved the day. From August, the Peterson case. I Googled it on impulse and found myself reading about a complex elder fraud investigation that Brian Chen had worked on. An elderly woman had been systematically defrauded by people she trusted, people who had gained access to her finances through emotional manipulation. My hands went cold. I printed the article, along with several others about Brian's work. Elder fraud prevention, financial abuse awareness, protecting seniors from family members and friends who exploit their trust. Either this was the most incredible coincidence in history, or Linda Chen was running a very sophisticated long-term con, And my son had just bought her a $60,000 car with money I was starting to suspect he didn't actually have. I called Marcus's cell phone. It went straight to voicemail, so I tried the house. Ashley answered, her voice tight with irritation. "Hi, Dot. Marcus is in the shower." "That's fine, dear. I just wanted to ask him something about his finances. You know, with the expensive gift and all, I'm curious how you two are managing such generosity." The pause was too long. "What do you mean?" "Well, a BMW isn't exactly pocket change. I'm just impressed that you've both done so well for yourselves." I kept my voice light. Curious, grandmotherly. "We're doing fine, Dot. Marcus got a promotion at work." "How wonderful! When did that happen? He hadn't mentioned it." Another pause. "Recently. Look, I should let you go. Marcus needs help with something." She hung up before I could ask another question, but she'd told me everything I needed to know. People who are legitimately doing well financially don't get defensive when asked about their success. They brag about it. I sat in Tom's chair, looking at my $3 piggy bank and thinking about $60,000 worth of car sitting in Linda's driveway. Then I thought about those bank statements in her purse, and her son, the elder fraud attorney, and the surveillance photos she'd taken of my personal documents. Something was very wrong with this picture, and I was starting to suspect that I wasn't the only victim in Linda Chen's game. The question was whether Marcus and Ashley were players or pawns. Either way, tomorrow I was going to start finding out exactly what Linda Chen was really after. And if my instincts were right, Christmas was about to become very interesting indeed. I didn't sleep much that night. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table with a pot of coffee and every piece of information I could find about Linda Chen. Brian Chen, and something that was becoming clear, wasn't adding up. By sunrise, I had a plan that would have made Tom proud. My first call was to Brian Chen's law office in Seattle. I used my sweetest grandmother voice when his secretary answered. "Hello, dear. This is Dorothy Williams from Virginia. I'm calling about Brian's mother, Linda. There was a little incident yesterday, and I want to make sure she's all right." "Oh, you must be the family friend she's been visiting. Mr. Chen was so worried yesterday when his mother didn't answer her phone. Is she okay? If you're watching this, subscribe, and let me know where you're watching from." Family friend. Interesting choice of words. Yes, she's fine now. But I'm curious, how long has Linda been staying in Virginia? Brian must miss her terribly. "Oh, it's been several months now. Since September, I think. He calls her every day. Such a devoted son. He was planning to visit for Christmas. But Linda insisted she wanted to spend the holidays with her new friends there." September. Linda had been in Virginia since September, which meant she'd been planning whatever this was for 4 months. And she'd deliberately kept her son away for Christmas so he wouldn't interfere with her operation. Well, she's certainly become part of our family here. My son even bought her a car yesterday. The silence on the other end was deafening. "I'm sorry, did you say your son bought her a car?" "A beautiful BMW. $60,000. He's so generous." "Mrs. Williams, I think there might be some confusion. Linda has her own car and her own money. She wouldn't need anyone to buy her anything. She's quite well off financially." I let that sit for a moment. Oh my. Well, perhaps I misunderstood. You know how it is with us older folks. After I hung up, I poured another cup of coffee and stared out at my winter garden. Linda Chen was wealthy, had a devoted son, and owned her own car. So why was she letting my son spend $60,000 on another one? And why was she pretending to be alone? My phone rang, and Marcus's name appeared on the screen. Finally. "Mom, we need to talk." "Good morning to you too." "Sweetheart, how did you sleep?" "Mom, seriously, Ashley and I are coming over. We'll be there in an hour." The tone was all wrong. This wasn't a social visit. This was an intervention, which meant Linda had already gotten to them. I spent the next hour preparing for battle. They arrived looking like they'd dressed for a funeral. Marcus wore his serious business suit, and Ashley had on her handling difficult clients outfit. They sat across from me at my kitchen table, like a tribunal. "Mom," Marcus began, his voice carefully controlled, "Linda is very upset. She feels like you violated her privacy yesterday." I raised an eyebrow. "Raised? By keeping her purse safe? I'm afraid I don't understand." "She thinks you went through her things." "Well, of course I did. What if something had fallen out? What if she'd had medication that needed to be refrigerated? I was being responsible. Ashley leaned forward. Dot, Linda feels uncomfortable about some of the questions you asked last night. About her son, about her finances. I was making conversation. I thought it was wonderful that she has family who care about her. Marcus's jaw tightened. The thing is, Mom, Linda's been through a lot. Her relationship with her son is complicated, and she doesn't like to talk about it. Complicated. That wasn't how Brian's secretary had described their daily phone calls and family dinners. I see. And the police call? Was that complicated too? They exchanged looks. Ashley spoke carefully. Linda explained that her son has some control issues. He gets anxious when he doesn't know where she is. It's actually part of why she needed to get away from Seattle. Control issues. I almost laughed at the audacity. They were rewriting the narrative in real time, turning a concerned son into a controlling monster to explain away yesterday's inconvenient phone call. How awful for her, I said sympathetically. It must be so hard to have family who care too much. Marcus missed the sarcasm entirely. Exactly. That's why what you did was so hurtful. She trusted us with her privacy, and then you started interrogating her about her personal life. Marcus, I asked where her son lived. That's hardly an interrogation. Mom, the point is, Linda is family now. She's been like a mother to us, especially after Dad died. She's been there for us in ways that... He stopped himself, but the damage was done. In ways that what, Marcus? In ways that I haven't been. Ashley jumped in quickly. That's not what he meant. No, I think it's exactly what he meant. Linda has been like a mother to you. The kind of mother who deserves a $60,000 BMW, unlike your actual mother who deserves $3 in a piggy bank. The silence was arctic. Marcus's face flushed red. That gift was symbolic, Mom. You know that? Yes, you've explained the symbolism. I'm a penny-pinching old woman who should be grateful for scraps. I stood up and walked to the window. Tell me something, Marcus. How exactly did you afford Linda's car? What do you mean? I mean $60,000 is a lot of money, even for someone with your new promotion. Another exchanged look. Ashley's tell was that she touched her wedding ring when she was lying. She was touching it now. We saved up, Marcus said. For how long? Mom, I don't think our finances are any of your business. You're absolutely right. Your finances are none of my business, just like Linda's purse contents are none of hers. I turned back to face them. But I'm curious about something else. This promotion you got, Marcus, when did that happen exactly? He shifted uncomfortably. A few months ago. What's your new title? Regional Sales Manager. At the same company? Yes. I nodded thoughtfully. That's interesting, because I ran into your old boss, Jim Henderson, at the grocery store last week. He mentioned they'd had to let several people go recently. Budget cuts. He was worried about you. Marcus went very still. Ashley's hand was practically welded to her wedding ring. Jim doesn't know about internal promotions, Marcus said finally. No, I suppose he wouldn't, especially if they didn't actually happen. The kitchen fell silent except for the tick of the grandfather clock. Finally, Ashley spoke up. Dot, I think we should go. This conversation isn't productive. You're probably right. I walked them to the door. Give Linda my regards. Tell her I hope she feels better about everything. As I watched them drive away, I realized the game was more complicated than I'd thought. Linda wasn't just running a con on me. She was running one on Marcus and Ashley, too. The question was whether they were willing participants or just as much victims as I was supposed to be. Either way, it was time to level the playing field. I spent the rest of the day playing detective, and what I discovered made my blood boil. Marcus hadn't gotten a promotion. In fact, according to his company's public records, he'd been written up twice in the last 6 months for poor performance. The $60,000 BMW hadn't come from his success. It had come from somewhere else entirely. A quick check of public records showed that Marcus and Ashley had taken out a second mortgage on their house 3 months ago. $70,000, approved in October. Right around the time Linda would have been gathering all that financial intelligence from her little surveillance operation in my house. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. The pieces were falling into place, and the picture they formed made me sick to my stomach. Linda had spent months collecting information about my finances, my property values, my late husband's pension. Then somehow, she'd convinced my son to go into debt to buy her an expensive gift, probably with promises about how it would all work out in the end. I had a feeling I knew what those promises involved. My laptop screen showed the results of another search I'd been dreading: Dorothy Williams' property records. Sure enough, there it was. My house had been appraised 3 months ago, an appraisal I'd never authorized, never been present for, and never seen the results of. The estimated value made my heart skip a beat: $450,000. Tom and I had bought this house for $60,000 30 years ago. We'd had no idea it had appreciated so dramatically, but apparently Linda Chen had known exactly what it was worth. I called the appraisal company, using my most confused elderly lady voice. "Hello, this is Dorothy Williams on Elm Street. I'm calling about the appraisal that was done on my property in October. I seem to have misplaced the paperwork." "Of course, Mrs. Williams. Let me pull that up. Yes, here it is. October 15th. The appraisal was ordered by Marcus Williams for estate planning purposes." Estate planning. My estate being planned while I was still very much alive. And he was authorized to order this. How exactly? Well, he's listed as your power of attorney on the request form. He provided all the necessary documentation. Power of attorney. I thanked the woman and hung up, my hands shaking with rage. I had never, ever granted Marcus power of attorney over anything. But apparently someone had created paperwork claiming otherwise. I drove to my lawyer's office without calling ahead. Margaret Patterson had handled Tom's will and our estate planning for 20 years. If anyone had filed power of attorney documents, she would have copies. "Dorothy," Margaret looked surprised to see me. "I wasn't expecting you today. How are you holding up?" "I need to see my files, Margaret. All of them. Especially anything involving power of attorney." Her face grew serious. "Dorothy, is everything all right?" I explained about the appraisal, about Marcus's supposed authorization, about Linda Chen and her surveillance photos, and her mysterious financial advice. Margaret listened with growing alarm. "Dorothy, I've never prepared any power of attorney documents for you. You were very clear after Tom died that you wanted to maintain complete control of your affairs. Then how did Marcus get authorization to order an appraisal of my house?" Margaret was already turning to her computer. "Let me check something." Her fingers flew over the keyboard, then stopped. Her face went white. "What is it?" "Someone filed a power of attorney document with the county clerk 3 weeks ago. It's notarized and appears to grant Marcus Williams complete authority over your financial and property matters." The room spun a little. "That's impossible. I never signed anything like that. Dorothy, I need you to look at something." She turned her monitor toward me. There on the screen was a legal document bearing my name and signature. It looked official, complete with a notary seal and witness signatures. It was also a complete forgery. "The signature looks like yours," Margaret said carefully. I studied it closely. "It's close, but look at the Y in Dorothy. I always loop it twice. This only has 1 loop, and I never dot my I's with circles. I use plain dots." I pointed to several inconsistencies in the handwriting. "This is a very good forgery, but it's not my signature." Margaret's expression was grim. "Dorothy, if someone forged legal documents to gain control of your assets, this is fraud. Serious fraud. We need to call the police." "Not yet," I said quickly. "I need to understand the full scope of what they're planning first. If I report this now, they'll just destroy evidence and claim it was all a misunderstanding. Dorothy, this is dangerous. If they have fake power of attorney documents, they could sell your house, drain your accounts, anything." I thought about Linda's bank statements, about her son the elder fraud attorney, about the BMW that Marcus couldn't actually afford. I think they're planning exactly that, but I want to catch them in the act. Margaret looked horrified. "I can't advise you to wait on this." "You're not advising me. I'm telling you what I'm going to do." I stood up, feeling more determined than I had in years. "But I need you to do something for me." "I want to change my will." "Change it how?" I smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. "I want to leave everything to charity, effective immediately. Make it ironclad, Margaret. No loopholes, no contests, no way for Marcus or anyone else to inherit so much as a penny." "Dorothy, are you sure? You're angry right now, and decisions made in anger." "I'm not angry, Margaret. I'm clear-headed for the first time in months. I thought about my $3 piggy bank and $60,000 worth of BMW. I'm done being taken advantage of by people who